Great. Welcome to another in our series of Let's Talk Office Politics. Is your lunchtime business session, and it is geared towards helping you navigate successfully the terrain of office politics and hopefully helping you well along your career path. My name remains Olatunji Shobodu, and I'm your anchor, and it promises to be an exciting edition today. And I hope to have more people join us today. And I hope as you come, you will come with a friend, you come with a colleague, you come with maybe your boss, or a subordinate, or even a family member. All right. We're open. And this, as I always say, is more about you than it is about me. All right. Why do I say that? Because for one, you have the opportunity of accessing counsel on the go. And even if I say so, I know it is credible counsel. I know it is trustworthy counsel by reason of where I've been, what I have done, and the grace of God that is at work here. Okay, so what are we going to be speaking to today? We're speaking to something that is very important. Well, yes, it should be very important, so that it doesn't amount to a waste of your time. All right. And there it is. It is basically knowing when to quit and exit the game of office politics. Knowing when to quit and to exit this game. And this was influenced by one of us in the office politics, WhatsApp group. I believe it actually came out of last week's session, because last week's session, I made some reference to this, and then one of the comment was that I should please speak to, that aspect of knowing when to quit and exceed the game. And that's what I most gladly obliged. And here we are today. That's what I will be speaking on, over the course of the next couple of minutes. Knowing when to quit and exceed the game. Well, everyone has accepted, and I hope you have, that office politics is a game. Okay. Office politics is a game. And the game involves many players. But you are certainly one of the players. And you should look at yourself as a distinct player and not categorize yourself, with a group of players, as many of us are wont to. We consider ourselves to be employees, and so we put ourselves in that group, and, I guess somehow we get lost in the group. No, we're expecting, that the group will somehow operate in a way that serves our interest. Well, that only leads to frustration, and predictably so. Because unfortunately, the way things run is it ends up being every man for himself and God for us all. And it ought not to be. But again, those who know must have heard the counsel, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. It didn't say work out the salvation of others. All right. But again, I mean, there is a way to interpret that, but that should give you the message that you should look at yourself as a distinct stakeholder. You joined the organization by yourself. Your letter was addressed to you. Your decision to join was hopefully completely yours. Even if you sought counsel, well, it was still your decision. And so it behoves you to take responsibility for navigating, all right, the tough when you get into that organization. All right, so this game therefore involves many people trying to achieve their own objectives, different people trying to achieve their objectives and, doing whatever they believe. But there's a time when you must know that the game is over, all right? Or somehow when the game is not working out in your favor. Much as you try, you just find that you are not making any headway. And what some people do is, because it is their source of bread and butter, they hang in there. They're not enjoying themselves. They just hang in there. They're not moving forward. They are not getting anything. They just hang in there. They just hang in there. They're not happy. They're frustrated. Yet they hang in there. All right. And that's not what's best. All right. For anyone. That can't be what is best for anyone. So maybe the starting point, knowing when to quit and exit this game. When you are no longer enjoying your presence, all right, in that organization, it's time to quit. I mean, with each passing day, your life, as it were, is winding down. And you don't want to continue hanging around and just wasting away your life when you are not happy, you are not moving forward, things are not happening the way you would like them to happen. All right. I think it makes sense when you are in that situation to simply, wind down your relationship there. Now, while we're at it, it's important to emphasize that in order to exit this game, the office politics game, we're really talking about exiting the organization. All right. Why is that? Because you might ask, well, I could stop playing the game, and just keep to myself and just, do my own thing. Maybe I never even wanted to get in the game in the first instance. Well, I mean, of course, that we would normally say that it doesn't make much sense for you to be in an organization and, you are sitting out on office politics. Why? It's part of how the organization operates, and you can't sit out, on the game. You can't sit out on the game. It's part of how the organization operates. You cannot sit out on the game. All right. It doesn't make sense. If you sit out, you would lose. That's one of the reasons that you lose anyway, that many people lose. They decide, I don't want to play the game. They have their views about this game, and they just don't get involved. And then they are full of complaints because, things don't work out well for them. Things just don't work out well for them. Okay? They're full of complaints. And when things don't work out well for them, um, you know, they don't understand that it's because that's what they signed up for. They signed up for it, okay, by not getting in the game. So if you have been mindful of the game and doing your best to play, and things still aren't working quite well for you, and you need to exit, it isn't really about exiting the game. You must understand that it's really about exiting the organization. In fact, it becomes even more compelling to exit the organization after you have been an active player in the game. All right. You don't want to have been an active player in the game and then you are, now you are now caught up when the game is not favoring you and you need to get out. Let me crave your indulgence for a brief timeout, please. A very brief time. Sorry, my sincere apologies for the hitch. I had to quickly attend to something around here, some of the vagaries of, the virtual kind of regime that we have right now. Sorry for the distraction. All right, so we're talking about knowing when to quit and to exit the game. And I was saying that exiting the game means exiting the organization. And I created scenarios to justify why that should be the case. And let me say that there are a number of reasons why you must give serious consideration to exiting the game. But let me speak about a concept first before I lay out these reasons. And I want to speak about the concept of winning the game of office politics. Concept of winning. What does it mean, to win in this game? What does it mean to be a winner in the game of office politics? All right. What does it mean to be, if you like, a winner at work? Because the environment of work is characterized by office politics. The environment of work is characterized by office politics. And so, well, basically, you win in this game when and as long as your interests are being duly served. Okay? When and as long as your interests are being duly served. So that means the first thing is being a stakeholder in that organization, a unique and distinct stakeholder. You must have interests. The fact that you have interests makes you a stakeholder. And the thing about interests is that you want your interest to be served. You want your interest to be realized. That's what you are taking responsibility for. That's what all your efforts are geared towards achieving. Okay? And those interests may be expressed by specific goals and objectives. All right? Unfortunately, you find a lot of people who work in organizations, they're going there day to day, but they haven't really defined for themselves specific goals. What do you want to achieve in that organization? If you are there for 5 years, within 5 years, what do you want to have achieved? If you're going to be there for 10, 15, all right, in 10 years, where do you want to be? What do you want to see as benefits that have accrued to you in terms of professional development, in terms of promotion, in terms of, your value, possibly monetary, in terms of what investment kind of portfolio do you want to have? What profile do you want to have in the industry? In that your line of career, how far do you want to have gone? These are, this is what a serious person does. This is what a serious stakeholder, lays out very clearly so that you are properly guided, so that all your efforts are properly guided, so that you are not just waking up, every day, rushing down to some organization, working, running home, the next day is the same. It should not become that sort of routine. And then at the end of each month, you go home with a check, and you're happy. Well, I guarantee that ultimately that is a prescription for frustration. Okay. So you ought to have interests and goals and objectives that reflect those interests. And therefore, you win in this game when those interests are being served. All right? When. I said when and as long as. Why? Because this is a continuing thing. I mean, every year you are there, every year the organization publishes its accounts. It's a time for it to appraise how well it has done. It must be a time for you to appraise how well, you have done also. So that's when you win. That's the concept of winning. That's the concept of winning. You can see that winning this game is not you measuring yourself in relation to somebody. Okay? It's not, wanting to be promoted, ahead of somebody, or because somebody is promoted. No, 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 no. When you do that, again, you are not playing this game well. All right? Now, everyone came to the organization on his own. Therefore, everyone has his or her own interest. And please don't assume that the interest of your neighbor, of that your friend at work, of that colleague, of your boss is the same with yours. You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked. Each one has his own interest. Each one is going somewhere, hopefully. And there are those who are going nowhere. All right. So, what is of importance to you and should be of importance to you? Where are you going? You lay out, all right, your own expectations, your own goals, and focus on that. And as long as those goals are being achieved, you are winning in that game. Now, you can change those goals from time to time based on the realities, within the organization, outside the organization, in the career. You can change your goals. Your goals can change. Everybody does that. Even organizations map out a strategy of 10 years, or 15 years, of 20 years. All right, the strategy changes. Why? Because at the point, that you're crafting the strategy, you make a lot of assumptions. But with time, some of those assumptions become reality and things change. With times, some of the factors that you are taught will work one way, they work another. Imagine, for example, in the Nigerian environment, if many companies would have strategized in a way that one factor they may never have anticipated or planned for, all right, maybe the, price of fuel, an increase in the price of fuel or something. But now look at today where the price of fuel is. Look at what has happened to the exchange rate. Now, those are fundamental assumptions, all right, that could have been the platform or the planks on which certain organizational strategies would have been crafted. But they have fundamentally changed. And so the company strategies would have to be revised. Okay, they would have to be revised. And that revision, okay, they would have to be revised. And so basically goals can change. Your goals can change, but you win only in relation to what your own goals and objectives are. All right, that's how you win. Now, you still win when you quit an organization on your own accord. It doesn't mean that you lost. The fact that I'm leaving an organization, all right, does not mean that I have lost. It may even be because, yes, my interests are not being served. Or perhaps my interests have been served up to a point, and I can't see my interest being served beyond that point or in the foreseeable future because certain things are about to take place. And then, of course, I say, well, I have no reason to continue to stay here because if I continue to stay here, my interest will no longer be served, and then I get out. At that point, I still won. I haven't lost. All right. There are instances, yes, where you can leave because you've been losing. All right. You've not been able to gain ground, to have your interests realized. Yes. But the fact that you are leaving, you're exiting, does not mean you have lost. It may actually, it should be the wise thing to do. All right. Whether you have lost or you have won. That decision should be a wisdom-driven decision. If your interests are not being served somewhere, you shouldn't continue to wait there. Otherwise, you are wasting away. If your interests have been served up to a point and you feel that based on certain things, they are not likely to be served going forward, you also need to get out. It's time to get out. It's time to get out. All right? So that's to clear that about the concept of winning in the game of office politics. All right, so let's talk about what are those things you should look out for in order to decide whether or not to exit the game and therefore exit the organization. And I'm going to draw your attention to about 7 things. I hope I can cover all of them. I can't be as detailed, but if you want more detail, of course, you can explore some of the programs that we have. But let me start with the first, and I call it the atmospheric condition. All right. The atmosphere of the organization. That's number 1. All right. You can exit when the atmosphere does not support or no longer supports the kind of aspirations that you have. Okay? Now, there are different scenarios that people often find themselves in. For new people who just joined an organization, all right, when they join, they come to realize certain things that they never knew about the organization. And one of it is the culture of the organization. This atmospheric condition really refers to culture. What's the culture, of the organization? So I advise usually that before you join an organization, the organization conducts a due diligence on you. It will ask people about you. Why is it that we don't find out about the organization? Maybe we're too desperate. Or maybe we just take the organization for whatever we've been hearing. But things are not always what you see. And for many organizations, you be careful about the brand because the brand message is curated. You hear what they want you to hear. It can be very different from what operates, in-house. And so when you join them with all that euphoria, with all that you have had, thinking that there is no organization like them, it's just the best place to work, maybe they've even been ranked as one of the best places to work, you then discover that all of that was just nonsense. And that the environment is pretty toxic. And the environment is such that it can't even serve your interests. When the culture, when the environment, when the atmosphere in which you are supposed to operate is not supportive of the pursuit of your goals and objectives, you need to get out. And it doesn't matter whether you just joined or not. Look, the pursuit of careers is a life issue. And you want to make the most of every minute, of every hour of your life. All right? So, the culture. What kind of culture is in place? What kind of culture is in place? Culture is a pretty strong thing. What is culture? Is the way of doing things in the organization. That's basically what it is. How does this organization get things done? And there are organizations you don't want to be in because, their ways of doing things are just contrary. Does the organization, for example, accommodate innovation? Do they encourage new ideas? Do they support people taking initiative, taking certain levels of risk? Does the organization support progress? There are some organizations, believe it or not, they are anti-progress. You just can't get very far, when you are in such organizations. Do they have respect for value that people contribute, or they simply just take it for granted? Is it one of those organizations that believe that because you are being paid, whatever it is that you do, you are expected to do, you are doing your job? And so there is no recognition, there is no reward, nobody celebrates you. When you do one thing, all that you discover that you just created more problems for yourselves because now they expect you to do more. All right? The contributions you make are just taken for granted. Is it an organization that has no regard for differentiation? Permit me to use this word. They treat both sheep and wolves the same. No differentiation. That's not a place that you want to be. That's not a place that you want to be. So when the culture is incompatible with your own beliefs and values, when the culture is incompatible or from your point of view cannot support the pursuit of your goals and objectives, it's time to quit and exit that organization. It's time. That's number one. Let me say that there are 4 things that you should look for, all right, to determine a culture that is supportive of your aspirations. Number 1, you want a culture that respects and promotes fairness. That is, there's a level playing field for everyone. Yes, all of us are playing our games. All of us are running after the same different things. However, we have, different. Each one must be able to pursue his or her objective without let or hindrance. Okay? So fairness is number 1. Number 2 factor is forbearance. All right? You want, or if you like, forgiving. You want an organization where, there's generally an atmosphere, a forgiving atmosphere. It's not one that you make a mistake and then it looks as if you burn down the organization, the way people react. All right? You want an organization that understands that people can make mistakes, as long as they're sincere, and as long as they're committed to working on themselves and improving the mistakes, that's a good organization to be in. Why? Because it is developmental, all right, in focus. Such organizations are likely to be more interested in the progress of the people, in the development of capacity and competence among its people. You want an organization that promotes diligence, all right, where, hard work, commitment to the pursuit of purpose is valued. not an organization where everything goes or anything goes, where, yes, they talk about core values, but you don't see it in practice, where it's all talk. There is no action to back it up. You want an organization where diligence is an important value, all right? A value that the organization holds there. And finally, you should look out for an organization that has rules, where there are clear rules for doing different things, operational rules. And not only do the rules exist, the rules are upheld. They are serious. Compliance is taken very seriously. All right. An organization characterized by these four, features is one that you can trust, is one that you can be comfortable in, is one that is more objective, driven more by objectivity than by subjectivity. Okay. And, that's the number one issue, very important issue. Number two issue is how you are received in the organization. How you are received in the organization. Okay. And, how are you received? You are a unique personality. So how comfortable is the organization with your presence? Okay. How much does the organization, like the fact that you are around? Okay. Your style of doing things. How much respect does the organization have for your skill or your talent? How much respect, and this is one important aspect, how much respect does the organization have for your faith? Is that a place where you can express your faith? Is that a place where your faith is respected? Is that a place where there is respect for the fact that you are entitled, all right, to have your faith and to practice it, all right, as you want? Okay, even if it's within certain limits, so that, of course, people don't go overboard, under the guise of doing that. All right. That's very important. Where you are not received, where you are not wanted, where the signs are obvious, and that could be expressed by management, by your boss, all right, by even your own colleagues or junior people, for whatever reason, that's not a place that you want to be, because you are not likely to make a headway there. Where you are not appreciated, where your presence is not desired, that's not a place where you can grow. That's not a place where positive things can happen for you. It's important that you are mindful of that. And if you are in that kind of organization, you should be thinking of getting out. You should be thinking of getting out. The meaning is that no matter what you do, all right, to try and win in the politics, the fact is that there is more working against you than there is working for you. So the effort may not be worth it. The effort may not be worth it. That's number two. Number three is the sincerity of management or leadership. Or maybe we should just say the quality of management. When you look at the management of the organization, do they come across as credible? How credible are they? How credible are they? Are they authentic? Are they people of their words? Do they keep to their words? Or are they just pretenders who say one thing and they do another? Are they people who only feel good about, workers or employees when things are going well? And the moment, the weather turns rough, they change into, a different set of people. Are they people who are only interested in their own well-being and welfare and, couldn't care less about what happens to others? What kind of management is in place? What kind of management is in place? All right. The third point, okay, I'm still on the third point. Somebody didn't get it. It's the quality of management, or if you like, and that's part of the sincerity of management. All right. Are they people that you can take for their word, or are they just pretenders? Are they people, all right, who are mindful of their staff, not mindless of them? Are they people who have the, interests of their staff, all right, as top priority? Or they're just people who are there to use the staff, all right, to accomplish their own purpose? You must, you know, uh, take time to examine that. You are comfortable where management is trustworthy. You are comfortable where management has regard for the interest of the staff. You are comfortable where management drives everyone, to try and fulfill their potential. You are comfortable where management insists on, differentiating contributors from non-contributors. You can be comfortable where management is not interested or does not do anything to celebrate those who truly add value and to sanction those who do not add value. That kind of environment where management is trustworthy should encourage you to stay. But where management is not trustworthy, you should be thinking of finding your way out. Because those are the people who are going to help you, through whom your goals are to be realized. Whatever goals and objectives that you set for yourself in an organization, you want to get promoted, those are the people who are going to take the decision. If there are people whose words, for example, is not their bond, your guess is as good as mine. They will make promises and they will never uphold them. So continuing to hang around in that environment, you will be setting yourself up, for disappointment repeatedly, for disappointment. Let me talk about another one. And this one, this was something that I had to do personally. And many years ago, when I got out of the banking industry at a pretty senior level, I got out because I anticipated that the weather was going to change. It was going to turn very rough. And I didn't want to be caught in that house. All right. When you are hearing that a hurricane is coming and warnings are being given, you don't want the hurricane to take place and while you are still inside the while you are still inside the house, because the chances of your survival, that experience will not be, very palatable. All right, the fourth point under the atmospheric condition is compliance. Compliance. Okay, you have existing rules. Is diligence, 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 diligence. Okay, so, going back to what we're talking about, you don't want to be in a house when the hurricane lands because the experience won't be very nice. So I saw a hurricane coming And I knew that it was time to get out. And I got out in time before the hurricane hit. I was working in a bank. I knew that, there was something going on. Another bank was trying to acquire my bank, which was having some challenges at the time, and it was an unholy association, because that acquisition, unfortunately, was supported by the central bank. And I knew, having the backing of a regulator, much as, we tried to resist every attempt to surreptitiously take over the bank, when I saw that coming, I knew this was like a hurricane. You wouldn't want to contend with those, not the people who really wanted to acquire, but seeing the force that was backing them, the force of a regulator backing them. I mean, there was no chance and there was no point. And so I got out before it happened. And it did happen. The hurricane really landed, and, and it really, but I got out. I got out on my own terms. I got out serving my interests. I got out, all right, um, being true to the values that I held dear. And so I got out a winner, all right? Somebody might see that, okay, I got out, I resigned, I was made to resign. Maybe I wouldn't have resigned. Okay, so maybe, the huge package I was earning and all of that was secondary. And as far as my goals were concerned, those were not even my goals, And that development did not dent my career. If I had wanted to continue in the banking industry, I would have. All right. But after 22 years, I felt I was done. Let me go and do some other things. There are more exciting things out there. And that was it. So the fourth one, there's a time that you get out because you foresee danger, because you foresee, certain things are going to change and they will be beyond the organization to protect your interests. So, for example, what are some of those things? One of them is what I've just given, a takeover. If a takeover comes, you have to ask yourself, what's going to be the implication for me? All right? What's going to be the implication for me? All right? What are the chances? Who is going to take over? Who are the people coming? You know what they say about a pharaoh showing up who does not know Joseph. So you may have been a superstar before, but if a new owner comes and you don't find out about the owner and what the antecedents of the owner has been, and you think that everything is still going to continue, you'll be shocked. All right? And so it may be a time to say, well, I'm not sure. If you're not sure, you don't want to be a part of it, you're safer just getting out, quit it. Okay? At times, it could be that the organization has not been doing well. And much as management tries, you observe management, you don't see that, people are doing things and the organization may be heading for the rocks. How will that serve your interest? I don't see how that will serve your interest. First, your effort alone can't change, can't sway the organization away from the direction it's going. And if others are not seeing anything or working towards this, and especially management, you see the body language, and you are not convinced, it's time to get off before the organization hits the rocks. At times, it may be just that a change of policy. All right? A change of some regulation, and before you know it, that's it. Just as, again, if I use the banking industry, at some point, central bank woke up one day, some governor came and he says, okay, if you have been an MD, ED, or you have been in a particular position for 10 years, you have to go. So these are some of the things that can take place that, you foresee danger, and the wise, what do you do? What does a wise person do when he foresees danger? Is to get out of the boat, get out of the way. All right? Don't put yourself in the line of destruction. That's not a wise way to play that game. Notice that it still remains a game because you are in the organization. And it's about what do you do now that I'm here and I'm seeing that this is what is likely to happen. Okay. Number 5 is if you are surrounded by the wrong crowd, it's time to get out. Surrounded by the wrong crowd. You can be in an organization and you are surrounded by the wrong crowd. You're surrounded by the wrong crowd. I had somebody who, I coach, in this area, is she. And what was the concern? The concern was that she was working. She felt she was in an environment where she's surrounded by men. In fact, she said the number of women in the organization, I'm not sure they are not up to 2%. And she happens to be one of them. And when you look at the conduct of the men, they are not men who even have particular regard for the women. I mean, even if they did, all right, the tendency is that they'll be overbearing. How do you survive in that kind of environment? How do you survive? So, what's your crowd like? What's the crowd surrounding you like? If you are in a place where the majority of them, for example, do not share the same faith with you, you think that's not going to affect you? You want to be the Lone Ranger among their midst? You think you can convert all of them? When all of them, have the same kind of conviction? Yes, you can say salt is sweet, but there is an amount of salt required. The amount of salt you require is in relation to the size of what you want to salt. There's a quantity of salt you can put in in food that you won't taste it at all. It will have no significance whatsoever. Why? Because the quantity of food overpowers and overbears on, the salt, the potency of the salt. So that's how it is. You look at the crowd. Am I supposed to be here? What are my chances here? These guys won't allow you to shine. People who scorn you, who scorn your faith. People who just don't have respect for doing things right. They're always cutting corners or looking for how to cut corners. People who just never tell the truth. People who they are going to the right, but they always tell you they are going to the left. That's not an environment in which you want to stay. The game can be pleasant in that environment. It's not likely that your interests will be served. And so it's time to get out. Number 6, no career prospects. Are there career prospects? Because yes, you are working there, but your journey is a journey that could be beyond the organization. Your journey is a career journey. The organization is just a means towards realizing your career objectives. So if the organization does not directly or indirectly support the growth, career growth, why are you there? You want to go on a course, they discourage you. You want to pay for yourself, they don't allow. You want to take some time off in order to go and prepare, for a program, for a course to enhance, your professional status. And instead, people are just, they ask you to do things at your own, use your leave for it. We can't give you study leave. We can't give you that. But when you get it, they want to enjoy it. An organization that does not offer prospects for your growth and development, especially in the area of your career and at a personal level, that's not where you want to be, sir. That's not where you want to be, ma. You need to be on your way out. You need to be on your way out. Why? You can't grow to be your very best. And therefore, invariably, the organization itself places a lead on how much value you can offer them. If there is a lead on how much value you can offer them, what are you going to rely on? All right? To grow in your organization. How are you going to distinguish yourself? In what credible ways, all right, can you become a force to be reckoned with in your career and therefore within the context of a larger industry that goes beyond your organization? Because your approach to this game called office politics must not be focused only on your organization. You want to build certain capacity that part of winning the game is to, when the time is right, move from your organization to another organization and, you continue to go higher. It's not to play within an organization such that you can only thrive there. You can't go out, just like some people. That's not the approach that anyone should adopt to this game. All right? I want to be a banker. I want to be a banker. I guess we have some bankers with us. Is my being a banker and wanting to rise to the zenith of my, profession is not limited to any bank. All right. So when the time is right, I move from one bank to the other. As long as I'm going up, that's what matters. That's what matters. I remain relevant, okay, in the profession, in that career. And that should be the approach. So when an organization is not supportive of my career growth aspirations, what am I doing there? Finally, and this is on the more spiritual side. On the more spiritual side, apologies for we've taken more than our time, and I'm doing that because there was a time that I had a break, so I'm trying to make up for it, but apologies to you, and I hope is worth your while still, but I'm finishing now. And, my last point is this, is to say that you need to be sensitive. And this is for both someone who is spiritual and people who are not spiritual. Sensitivity is important. Sensitivity is important. Now, let me start with somebody who is not even spiritual. You just find that nothing excites you really. You've gotten to a point where nothing really excites you working in that environment, where you struggle to, wake up in the morning and make the move to go and report to work. Something clearly is wrong. If the excitement is not there, if something that you can't explain is pulling you back or making you feel uncomfortable, and it only has to do with when you are thinking about that organization or when you show up there to work, it's time to get out. It's time to get out. Forget that at the end of the month, they write you a check. And that can be difficult for some people. But this kind of counsel has turned out to be the saving grace for others. Because there is no amount of money that any organization is paying you that will equate to the value of your life. Because you never know. That feeling may be warning you about impending disaster. All right, don't force yourself to remain in an organization where every time you sit down to work or you show up to work, you just feel uncomfortable. You should get out. And if you are spiritual, you should know. You ought to know. You ought to know. And you can get signals like having a dream, and the things you see are in relation to the organization. And they're just not comfortable. I remember in this regard, my wife used to work with a bank. I would crave your indulgence not to mention the name of the bank. And at a point, she used to have, some dreams about the management of the institution and what she was seeing them do, and what she was seeing, the staff turning into or becoming or doing was very uncomfortable. It was scary, to say the least. And there were pointers clearly to the fact that environment in which you're operating, you need to get out of it. And ultimately she did. Ultimately she did. So this is very important. And this is so important that the discomfort you feel may even have nothing to do. You may be doing well. You may be getting promoted. You may be well regarded. But all of that are things you see. What you don't see is what's going on behind the scenes. And for those who are spiritual, who believe in certain things, that's more important than what you're seeing. That's more important, than what you're seeing. So again, depending on where you stand, on the spirit realm spectrum, this is something that can be very helpful, that will signal to you when to get out, all right, of an organization, when to stay out of this game called office politics. So those are the 7 key reasons I'd like to share with you on the episode this week of Let's Talk Office Politics. My name remains Olatunji Shobodu. I don't know if there are any questions. If there are, you can unmute and ask, or you can simply, type the question in the chat. Maybe I'll just pause like a minute or two to see if we get any question. Once again, time is fast spent, but I hope we've tried to make up for it somehow. And sorry also for the gap that we had earlier on, where I had to attend to some development within my own immediate environment here. So that's it for today. We've been talking knowing when to quit and exit the game. What game? The game of office politics. And we've talked about 7, reasons or 7 conditions that you should watch out for that are credible pointers, that should help you take the right decision, whether or not to quit, and also when to quit in particular. So are there any questions? We having any question from anyone? Does anyone wants to say anything or want to make a contribution or share any experience? Can do that for 1 or 2 minutes, and then we call it a day. Do we? All right. It doesn't appear that anyone wants to speak, but you can continue with our discussion on the WhatsApp group or on the community platform, the Office Politics Champions community platform on NAS.io. I hope everyone on this call is already on the community platform. If not, I'm putting a link right now in the chat. Please join that platform. You would get access to more materials, on this area and on a regular basis. And feel free, please, to invite your friends, and others, anyone who is working in an organization. They need to build, to be politically savvy or to acquire political intelligence. It's been acknowledged as one, perhaps the most critical skill you need to have, in order to succeed in any career. So you can share with others, let them join. Thank you for joining. Fisayo, thank you. Good to see you. Mr. Lutade, thank you for joining. We'll be in touch, offline. And see you next week, or see you on the platform. Thank you very much. God bless you. And have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Coach. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you, Fisayo.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. God bless you. See you all next week.